Money needs better marketing or branding, or maybe a documentary without the name Blood, Dirty, or Filthy in the title, right? Maybe money should hire whoever's behind this Kale movement, K-A-L-E. My friend David ordered a kale salad at lunch. I'm like, do you hate yourself? What are you doing? Kale, it used to be the inedible decoration at the Pizza Hut salad bar. Nobody ate it. No, it's a superfood that's in everything. Yeah, everything. They can hide the taste of it because, well, it's pretty much the garden's anus. It's not just kale. There's so much branding and marketing out there. Like, I walked down the grocery store the other day. Everything has an origin story. It's about this nice, wonderful family bringing this fresh taste to your mouth at twice the price. Here at the organic, natural, pure, blissful potato company, our happy chips are baked in the most exotic coconut oils and only from the wokest of potatoes and sent to your mouth with the blessing of love from our in-house shaman, Steve. Well, screw you, Steve. I'll stick to my cereal with cartoons and corn syrup and save the difference. Does inflation have you concerned? Well, for most people. I mean, not everyone. I'll tell you who it doesn't concern. Has the increase in prices made a dent, impact, or even had you going backwards with your finances? How bad's it going to get? And what can you do about it? See, inflation has actually been helping rich people, but creating a divide, a wealth gap for the masses. Those with assets have experienced appreciation with real estate and even seen their portfolios grow for years, well, until recently. $1 in 1980, $1 could buy what $3.60 could today. So 3.6 times more purchasing power for $1 back in 1980. Let's take a look at that. In 1985, you can go see a movie for $3.55, and today the average price is like $8.65. A concert ticket back then would have been around $15. Now it's $90. Just got my Kendrick Lamar tickets. They're more than that. Gas was around $1, and well, I think you know the price today. But think about other things that are kind of beyond inflation. Like, I went to school in southern Utah, close to Vegas. And I remember, being 18 years old or whatever, going to Vegas, and you could just get a drink for a couple bucks. You get 99-cent shrimp cocktail. You could have all you could eat for $9.99, less than $10. Last time I was in Vegas, just a month ago, drinks were $24, $25, right? Well, that's unless you go to a club where they could be hundreds of dollars. I remember taking my wife to this club, and I bought a bottle of vodka, and she's like, $450? What are you doing? I'm like, babe, it's table service, got to do it as a minimum anyway. And she's like, that's crazy. I'm like, look at the other prices here, $2,000, right? So that could be thousands of dollars. That's not really inflation, is like experience, but it's just Vegas is no more 99-cent shrimp cocktail. It's no more all you can eat for cheap. And when I tell my kids the stories, I just sound super old and ancient to them. But I get it. Sometimes we just have improvements in life, I went to the Stardust Hotel. That's nothing compared to the Aria or even the Venetian. The food in Vegas is infinitely better now. They have more wine somms there than anywhere else in the world. But even the cost of basic things like beer has skyrocketed without some major advancement or improvement. So if it isn't due to improvement, why is it that we have inflation? Let me just touch base on the things that are most impactful and important. There's a few factors to really understand. The most important ones are, first, quantitative easing. Quantitative easing sounds mathematical, but what it really was they added 40% to our money supply. That's going to create inflation. This was primarily sent to banks and to Wall Street to stabilize the economy. This can and will continue to have an impact on our purchasing power. We're not through the woods yet. The second thing, and this has been around for quite some time, is called fractionalized banking. This was invented by many names that you know. Chase and Morgan, like the big Wall Street people. It's a function of using private banking where you can lend out $1 more than once. So you get a loan, you put it back into the bank, then that money gets lent to someone else. There's just a small reserve requirement. So it just gets over and over and over the same dollars being used. That can create inflation as well. Hey, I know I'm interrupting, but it's because if you go to garrettgunderson.com/quiz, you can figure out your money persona.
When you know your money persona, you'll be able to make better choices when it comes to your finances, understand where you've made mistakes and missteps and what was the psychology behind that, and really improve how you view money and how you work with other people with different money personas. So Garrett Gunderson /quiz, no charge, discover your results, and go ahead and comment and let us know what it was.
Let's also talk about government debt through spending and consumption. Price adjustments happen when budgets have to be spent to get the money next year. Spend it or lose it. I have friends that work for the government like, oh, we got to use every dollar of the budget, otherwise we get cut the next year. And when we look at what's happened recently, free money leads to more money to spend. More money to spend means that higher demand creates higher prices due to simple economics. Look at the supply chain issues. People are willing to pay more for certain things because it's harder to get. So when the government's spending trillions that haven't been earned and creating jobs that aren't actually of value just to create salaries, that's going to impact inflation too. But of the three, that's the one that does the least. It's really quantitative easing, fractionalized banking, and government debt through spending. So, well, what can you do? Let's start with where inflation helps. Your loans feel lighter over the years. Think of it this way. If you went to your mailbox and you're like, oh my God, I got $1 million. How amazing is this? But then you look over and your neighbor got $1 million and your other neighbor got $1 million. Well, if it's just money that's been sent and nobody's done anything for it, that would create inflation. The good news is you could just pay off your loan really easy. The bad news is for those people that have been working for years to pay off their loan, making extra payments, they did all this work and inflation hurt them, but it helped you. So realize inflation will make certain assets appreciate. The price of things go up. So if you're a business owner, you can adjust your pricing. The price and value of certain things, the value doesn't change, but the price does when there's a whole lot of money out there in the economy. So where does it hurt? I mean, many of you already know, I don't have to tell you. But why does it hurt so much and why will it continue to hurt is because anytime we have money, which is a representation of value, it's a man-made efficient tool to exchange with one another. Money represents the value that we've created, and now we can exchange for someone else's value. It's a very, very efficient tool so we don't have to barter. But when we have money without value, money without exchange, that destroys the value of money. So we know that wages don't keep up with inflation. We know that those people on a fixed budget aren't able to live the same quality of life as they did before. But one of the things that most people haven't really started to understand, but they'll see soon, is when we have to spend more money to buy the same things because of inflation, taxes start to become more problematic. When our money inflates, then what happens is where tax brackets aren't, they're not lowering the tax brackets necessarily, they're talking about raising them. And when you kick into your higher tax brackets, starts to happen quicker because of inflation. What the big issue is with inflation is it creates fear, frustration, and distrust. When it feels like through no fault of our own, the game and the rules are constantly changing, that the target is moving, it's hard to have faith in our government. It's hard to have our faith in the economy and even in Wall Street and other corporations in general. Those without assets, those that are trading time for money, working and scrimping and sacrificing, those are the ones that get hurt most by inflation. So what's the solution? Well, it begins with knowing yourself, knowing your value, developing your skill sets so that you can add more value to the marketplace. When we look at value as the core concept and then money follows that value, we don't have to have inflation. When we start messing with money without value creation, it starts to disconnect and be disjointed of what money really is, that representation of value. So if we could focus on value creation, then the money will follow. But knowing how to create value, how to create deep value, or how to have enough reach to create leverage and that have value like software does, that's what is going to create a meaningful amount of money. When we trade time for money, it's hard to set aside the time to think, to develop what I would call our mental capital, our ideas, our knowledge, our wisdom, our insights, our strategies, our tools. And when we can tap into that mental capital to add value, that's what creates wealth. So how do we do that? You discover your investor DNA and you focus instead of diversify. You relate to your investments by understanding where you're putting your money, creating cash flow with that money, being more efficient by plugging your leaks, which I have plenty of videos that are on that, and ultimately take responsibility for our life, putting our money into institutions' hands and hoping for the best, hoping that Social Security will be there for us. When it's not even there now, it's just putting us further into debt because it gets spent the second it gets in there, like an IOU, almost like the briefcase from Dumb and Dumber. If you saw that movie, it's like, hold on to that one. That's that's a Lamborghini. That's a lot. Well, they're spending money that they're telling us that we're putting money towards. There's not money there for us. We have to really focus on creating cash flow for ourselves and financial independence. And when you can create financial independence, where you have enough cash flow to cover your basic expenses, and that comes from assets like businesses or real estate or investments, then every active dollar you earn when you're financially independent can go towards building more assets, and that's going to help you, defeat inflation, or not be defeated by it. So invest in yourself. Make more money by adding more value. Value is the solution here, not a policy that the government comes out with, or a product from a corporation, or the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor a reserve, but a private group of bankers that control the money supply. Or when we look at anything, that tinkers with or toys with or creates an artificial means to temporarily solve a so-called problem like a pandemic or like a bank crisis like we saw in 2008, it has destructive long-term consequences. See, no one's coming to save you, and even if they were, how would they do it? At what expense? If the government says, we'll provide housing for you, how are they going to provide housing? Do they have workers? How are they going to pay those workers? They're through taxing you, or by spending more than what comes in from the taxes? Again, devoid of value. This is why it's so confusing. If all we did was stick to what value do you provide and what would people pay you for that value, and if we stuck to that and we didn't spend more than that, we wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have fractionalized banking. We wouldn't have to quantitatively ease. But because we have an insatiable appetite for consumption, and we have every commercial and every advertisement and every app and everything saying, buy more and you'll be happier, that lie continues to inflate.
Hey, hopefully you like this format. A little bit of a joke and then some content. I spent a lot of time researching and writing and making sure to deliver value. So if you like this American Dream concept, that you want to get past the myths and misinformation around finance, we'll go to the next video and discover even more.